I think it's just yesterday's. Most of the guys stayed away, which was great. And today it's going to be a regular pregame batting practice, take grounders, get guys moving around. There's going to be a hitters meeting. Guys are going to get in the weight room. Pitchers play catch. There might be a couple bullpens. I think Tony Gonson is going to throw a pen. But outside of that, nothing too formal.
How much confidence do you have that your roster is set in terms of what you want? How many more decisions are there to make?
We're pretty much there. There's a couple more decisions, a couple more tougher conversations that we're going to have. But by the end of this workout, I think that everyone should know their fate.
Now that you know who you're facing, how do you feel that this team lines up against the Milwaukee Brewers?
I think we match up well against anyone, but I think as far as the Brewers specifically, this is a team that relies heavily on pitching, starting pitching, bullpen. They match up really well. They've had obviously position players that have performed over the years that just haven't had the season that they're used to, but still very dangerous. A lot of respect for Counts and his staff.
You had mentioned some superstars that aren't having the years that they're used to. Christian Yelich is always dangerous. How do you make sure he's not the one guy in their lineup that gets you?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is that you kind of throw out the stat sheet once you get to the postseason and understand that he's still a superstar player. And Ryan Braun has been an all-star perennially. And so you've still got to pitch these guys carefully and execute pitches. And if we do that, prevent runs, we'll be fine.
And finally for me, Dave, now that you're obviously playing the Brewers, does that make a bigger difference for you as far as who starts that game 3 if necessary based on their lineup and the matchups?
Yeah, I think that, for us, we still have some options. I think that it's nice knowing that you have Walker and Clayton going game 1 and game 2. And however we want to use those relievers, and you're speaking specifically to Julio, Dustin, and Tony, to then have those guys ready in any one of those games and kind of see how 1 and 2 plays out. I think that we'll know more then. Right now, we're just trying to keep it open.
Next question is from Dave Vassay. Go ahead.
Hi, Dave.
Hi, Dave.
I was curious, since you know Council and you went up against their thought process in the NLCS a couple of years ago, do you feel like you have a better understanding of what they may try to throw at you to make up the difference in talent?
I just think that you just got to expect anything. And it's kind of the gamesmanship, whether it's getting a lineup late or throwing a pitcher for a hitter and changing, going to the pen. So I don't know what their game plan is, but we just got to be prepared for anything. And I really like the way that offensively, with the guys that can handle both and the way we structure our lineup, we can sort of combat anything.
You mentioned some of the Brewers players that haven't had their type of season. Have you talked to Cody or Muncy about starting fresh and not worrying about what took place over 60 games?
I don't think that I needed to have that conversation, Dave. I think that they're both excited, like everyone else, to start this new season. And it certainly is healthy and helpful when the stats don't matter. It's just about playing to help your team win a baseball game. So, again, this is a crazy year. This regular season shortened. So I just love the guys that will be running out there this series.
You guys have been really good scoring late this season, but how important is it to make your job easier to have a lead before they can bring in Hader and Williams?
It's important. It's really important. I think especially with this bullpen, they're going to rely heavily on those two guys specifically. I'm certain of it. So to get a lead early, the middle innings, I think is imperative because, I don't see those guys losing too many games late with those two arms.
Next question is from Ken Gurnick. Go ahead.
Dave, what have you seen from Cody in the last, say, 10 games that gives you confidence that Cody's back to being Cody?
I think for me, I see some balls hit on a line to left center. I see some balls hard up the middle. And that's probably for me. I think he's taking his walks. So those are things I think showed me that it's trending in the right direction.
Okay.
Next question from Plunkett. Go ahead.
Dave, we just watched Terrance Gore run the bases. Is he on your roster?
There's a good chance, Bill. I don't know when it's supposed to be official, but I like what Terrance is doing.
We talk about World Series or bust expectations with this team every year. Because of the nature of this year, is it more appropriate than ever? And by that I mean, are all the risks and sacrifices that everyone's making worth it for anything less than a championship?
Well, first of all, it's a really it's a great show of accomplishment, or a lot of people deserve a lot of credit for us getting to this point. Specifically to the Dodgers winning a championship. I think you said it early. It's kind of World Series or bust every year. This year, I think it's just I think it's certainly would be more special, I think, if it could even be possible after, talking about winning a championship. But we've all gone through a lot. The whole industry has. But I think for us, we're just right now, Bill, we're just focused on the Brewers, and we'll see what happens.
You mentioned that you're going to be less platoon-driven this October than in the past. Does that inoculate you against some of the games that the Brewers would like to play?
I think so, especially the first 6 hitters that we run out there every night. But I think that, I think that to kind of stagger left, right, to have the guys that can hit both certainly protects us a little bit more.
Some of your key players do not have a good postseason history, specifically Seager and Bellinger. What about this year's lineup, this year's offense, do you think makes you able to absorb something like that if it happens again?
I think the depth all the way around. And I think specifically you mentioned Corey and Cody. I think it's just growth. I think Corey, a couple of them came in hurt and didn't play and was banged up going into the postseason. So I think another one, he performed really well. I think Cody is just continuing to get experience, and I really expect him to, perform, and whatever that means. But also, I think to your question is, we just have a lot of good players that no one or two players needs to carry us anywhere.
I got time for one more. Go ahead, Jorge.
Dave, is preparing for a team that you haven't faced all season, does it make this any different than years past?
A little bit. You kind of got to go back to some video, and you just haven't really seen them up close and personal, because I think that guys change year to year, a little bit. We haven't seen this Devin Williams, to see him a lot on video, but to see him firsthand, I think would have been helpful. But they have that same dilemma or same, situation. So we'll see how it plays out, but it's going to be a fun series.
What has Walker Buehler done between after his last start? Has he thrown a bullpen? Has he done it without carving his blister? What's he been up to?
He's thrown a couple bullpens and covered, and it's been really good.